Star Trek 4's biggest difference to the previous three movies explains why it's so good. When you think of Star Trek movies, chances are your mind immediately jumps to the bombastic space battles of the Wrath of Khan or the operatic Klingon showdown of the Search for Spock. The first three Star Trek films followed a fairly similar pattern: big stakes, galactic danger, and plenty of dramatic weight placed on Kirk, Spock, and the Enterprise crew. But then came Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home 1986, and everything changed. Instead of space wars, the final frontier was 1980s San Francisco. Instead of phasers and photon torpedoes, the solution was humpback whales. And instead of a grim meditation on mortality, the film leaned into humor, fish out of water antics, and a surprisingly hopeful environmental message. That huge shift in tone and subject matter explains why Star Trek 4 has endured as one of the most beloved entries in the entire franchise. A radically different tone. The first three films, the motion picture 1979, The Wrath of Khan 1982, and The Search for Spock 1984, were serious, sometimes somber works. The motion picture was ponderous and philosophical. The Wrath of Khan was a tragic revenge tale about aging and sacrifice. The Search for Spock focused on loss, resurrection, and Kirk breaking Starfleet rules to save his friend. They all had high stakes, with starships exploding and the fate of planets hanging in the balance. The Voyage Home, however, took a completely different approach. It asked, what if Star Trek could be fun? Instead of grim space battles, the Enterprise crew had to navigate 20th century culture, from cursing drivers to confusing bus rides. Watching Spock attempt to curse, or McCoy railing against 1980s medicine, was pure comedic gold. The humor wasn't mean-spirited or slapstick, but rooted in the characters' personalities. Kirk's swagger, Spock's logic, and McCoy's impatience became delightful tools for comedy. By leaning into lighter storytelling, the film opened itself up to a broader audience. Even people who weren't traditional Star Trek fans could enjoy it, because the movie worked as a fish-out-of-water comedy first, and a Star Trek story second. The absence of a villain. Another major difference. Star Trek 4 has no real villain. The threat is an alien probe that threatens to destroy Earth, but it's not malicious. It simply wants to communicate with humpback whales, who had been hunted to extinction by the 21st century. The real antagonist was humanity's short-sightedness. This was a radical departure from the prior films, which all had clear enemies, VGR sort of, Khan, and the Klingons. Instead of fighting an enemy, Kirk and his crew had to solve a problem creatively, relying on science, compassion, and adaptability rather than brute force. This made the movie stand out, because it showed that Star Trek didn't always need space battles to be exciting. The tension came from whether the crew could adapt to an alien world, their own past. Environmental urgency with optimism. By the mid-1980s, concerns about the environment were rising, but few blockbusters dared to make those issues central. Star Trek 4 took the bold step of making an ecological crisis the very heart of the story. Humanity's destruction of whales, one of Earth's most intelligent and beautiful species, creates a chain reaction that nearly dooms the planet. Yet, instead of being bleak, the message was hopeful. The Enterprise crew doesn't wring their hands about human mistakes. They roll up their sleeves, hop in a Klingon bird of prey, and fix the problem. It framed environmental responsibility as something humanity could still rise to meet. That mixture of urgency and optimism resonated with audiences then, and it still does today. A time travel adventure that worked. Time travel stories can often feel gimmicky, but The Voyage Home turned the concept into a strength. The film balanced science fiction mechanics slingshotting around the sun with pure comedy Chekhov wandering around asking strangers for nuclear vessels. Dropping the crew into 1980 San Francisco made them relatable, and their reactions to our world revealed just how futuristic and different the Federation really was. It was also a clever way of saving money. Instead of elaborate sets and effects, much of the film was shot on location. That grounded the story in a way no previous Star Trek film had attempted. It was relatable, funny, and gave audiences a sense of seeing their own world through Star Trek eyes. Why it worked so well. Ultimately, Star Trek 4's biggest difference from its predecessors The shift away from grim space operas toward a comedic, hopeful, earthbound adventure is what made it so beloved. It showed the flexibility of the franchise. Star Trek didn't need to follow a single formula. It could be philosophical, action-packed, or comedic, and still work. Fans embraced it, and so did critics. The Voyage Home became a box office hit,